Hello everyone, this is Frank from Tech Edify, and in this video I'm going to teach you Microsoft Excel basics. So if you are just a beginner wanting to learn Excel, then this video is going to help you a lot because I'm going to start with you from the scratch. Now, what is Microsoft Excel? Excel is a spreadsheet application that can help you to organize data, manipulate them, and analyze the data. It is one of the most fundamental and required office application you need to know if you want to work in any office. Now let's get started. Okay, so let's see how to launch Microsoft Excel in the first place. So if you have installed Microsoft Excel, you can just simply go to your search. I'm using Windows 10, so I'll just search for Microsoft Excel, or from your recent apps that you have access, you can see Microsoft Excel. So let's quickly just search for it in case you are not seeing your own there. So this is Excel, so I'll just tap on it to launch the application. Now this is Microsoft Office 2019. If you are using Microsoft Office 2010, 2016, 2019, or any of them, this tutorial is very useful. You can work in it. So when you launch Microsoft Excel, now these are recent documents that we've worked in the application. Now when you check over here, you are seeing some default or template that you can start with it. So you can look at nice and attractive templates that you can start using for your Excel document that you want to start. So here in our case, because we are a beginner, we will choose the blank document. Now they have organized it in so many ways that will help you to choose from which template that you want to use. So they have business. Now when you check the business, you see a lot of templates for businesses: business invoice, balance sheet, simple invoice, and other stuff. So let me go back. So I'll just go here. So here we want to start with a blank document. So let me click on the blank workbook. So I'll just tap on the blank workbook. So this is the Excel application. Now let's first of all look at the interface of the application. Now when you look at the application, we have a tab or a bar here. We call it the quick access toolbar. Now you can customize this quick access toolbar based on your own preference. You can add some of the commands you are seeing, maybe the new, as you see the new has come, the open, and then save or quick print, any of them depending on your preference. So you can customize the quick access bar. Now when you check on the next one, these are the various tabs. So we have the file tab. We have the file tab is where you can see save, new, and other functions. Now the home has to do with the basic format commands and other stuff that you might use in the application. Now we have insert, page layout. So all these things are what we call the tab. Every tab you click on has a command or sub menus that falls under it. So if I go to the page layout, I'm seeing a different kind of what commands that falls under it. Okay, so later we're going to look at all these things in the advanced one. So let me go back to the home. Now when you check over the tab, that is when I click on a menu. These are the menu tabs. So if I click on the menu tab, you will see a lot of commands that falls under each of these menus. So menus are just commands. So assuming like I want to insert a picture, I have to come to the insert tab, and then I will see a picture command here. So actually this whole thing is called ribbon. That is where all the commands are being displayed. Okay, so when you come down here, you see what we call a worksheet or sheet. So the sheet is all what you are seeing here. That is where we're going to work. All your information that you're going to work on the sheet appears over this range. Now if you look at the sheet, actually this is a default sheet that we have, so it's sheet 1. Over here you can click on to add another sheet. So maybe I'm working on a different sheet. You can tap here to add a new sheet. Now the sheet is made up of columns. So as you can see in the program, every column has an alphabet letter that identify what the column. The columns that you have here they are over 16,384 columns. So when it ends on Z, it starts AA, AB, AC. So it goes on and on and on like that. When it ends AZ, it starts BA, BB, BC. So that's actually how Microsoft Excel column is. Now you can also see some numbers here. So these are called rows. Yes, these are called rows. The rows are also over 1 million. So you can just be scrolling down, you won't get to the end. It's over 1 million rows. Now the issue is that you cannot be working with all these sheets or the entire sheet. So probably you might just be using a few portion of this worksheet. Now when you check on the worksheet, we also have what we call cells. The cells are just intersection of the column and the row. So if you look at the cell that I've selected, you can see in the name box, the name box shows the cell name, that is J6. The reason why we call it J6, or this cell is called J6, is because this cell is on column J and row number 6. So the intersection of the column letter and the row number gives the address or cell address. Every cell has a unique address that identify the cell, and that is what the program also uses whenever you want to perform some calculations or use the content of it for something. So every cell that you see there has a unique number or address that always shows in the name box. Now whenever you click on a cell, that cell is termed as an active cell. So if I want to work in cell I3, then I3 needs to be selected. That will show that I'm in what? I3. That means any data that I will enter will go into the I3. Now when you come down here, you can see the zoom. This can help you to zoom your sheet. If you are not seeing your sheet very well, or maybe it looks too small, you can use the plus to zoom in, and the minus is to what? To zoom out. So mostly it's always set to 100 by default. So that is basically the interface of it. Now when you check over here to this place is called formula bar. Now the formula bar normally displays the content of a cell. That means if there is a data, let me just put in a simple data here. If I select this cell, you can see the content of the cell in the formula bar. It doesn't only shows content, it can also shows formulas and other functions, which we're going to talk about it very soon for you to understand it. Now one thing is that I can also highlight some cells. Now whenever you highlight a cell, it becomes a range. So as you can see here, I have selected a range of cell. So let's see how you can add data into a cell. I told you that a cell can contain a string or a text. It can contain numbers. It can also contain formulas or even function. So how do you enter a data into Excel? So the first thing is you just have to select the cell that you want to enter data. So here in our case, we just want to use some basic data here. So let me just say items. So we're going to add items, and then we will look at the cost prices, and then I'll select the next cell. So every cell you pick up has an address. So here you see I'm in the cell C1. So I'll put quantity. So let me just say quantity. Okay, and then amount. So now let's begin to feed in data. So as you can see, we have items. So I'm going to list out some few items and then put in some few cost, prices and quantity, then we'll move on. So let's put it straight up. Okay, so I've put in some information in the item column. Now if you realize something here, you can see the drawing book has exceeded to the second column, that is the column B. Now it really resides in the same column, it hasn't gone anywhere, because if I click over here, I don't see any content in that formula bar. Now one thing is that you can just adjust your column width by using or placing the mouse over the column letter, so you can just expand it. So in case you think maybe some of the content has proceeded onto other cells, no, that is not what is happening. It's just that the width of the cell needs to be expanded, so you can just expand it a little, can even. And the same applies to the height of the row. You can also adjust the height of the row. Now let me put in some cost prices here and then we move on. Okay, so these are some basic information that we've put in here. Now let's look at this. Is cost price and you don't see difference with the quantity, so let me just apply a currency sign so it can differentiate it from the quantity. So I'll go back to the home here. Now you just have to select the data. Now if you want to select a data, you can just click from the first cell and drag it down. It will highlight a data in that column. So when you come here, you see the currency sign or the accounting format. So when you type here, we have various currencies that you can choose from. So let me just pick the US or United States dollar. Now if you want to customize your currency, you can just come to more accounting format. And now when you come to more accounting format, you can see symbol here. That is, we have a lot of countries which you can choose from. So probably if your currency is not there, you can find it here. So let me just choose the Ghana cedi. I'm in Ghana, so I'll just choose the Ghana cedi. So you can just simply type GHC. So this one is my currency symbol, and we have the decimal places. If you want to increase your decimal places, you can just choose. By default, I'm just maintaining the 2, so I'll click on OK, and then you can see my cost price has been identified with what the currency sign. Now if you click on the cell, the content is 20, you don't see the cedi sign. Yes, that's how you can format any currency with any values that you have there. So now here, let's begin to change the look or the appearance of our information here. So because this is a heading, let's select it and bold all these things. So I'll just highlight them together and I'll click on the B here to bold it. That is, if you want to even shade, so you can just see the fill with color. I'm just going to give it a light color here. So that's what I have here. So you can change some of the font. If you think the font is not nice to you, you can come here and change all the font. Whatever you want to do, you can just highlight it. If you want to change the size of the text, you can just do and make so many changes. So you can customize your sheet or the informations that you have, format it and then to suit your own thing. Now in case you want to also update the existing data that you have, probably maybe I made a mistake there where there was one item that I didn't bring. So when it comes to the Excel, you can add data. That is, you can add rows or columns to the existing one. So let's assume maybe we want to add a row, maybe in between the eraser and then the drawing book. So what I would do is that you have to just click on anywhere on the row here, and then you can come here to insert. So when it comes to insert, you can see insert sheet row. So insert sheet row will put in a new row on top of where you clicked, so you can provide in the information that you want to add on that row. Or simply you can just right click on the row and then you come to insert and then you choose entire row and then you click OK. So it will put a new row here for you. So let's assume maybe I want to put pen over there, so I'll just put pen. And now if you want to move to the next column, you can use the tab key and it moves you directly to the next cell. So let's put in the price there. So let's say it's 15 and now the quantity is 14. Okay, so that's how you can add a row to an existing one. In the same way you can add columns. Let's assume maybe I want to add a column maybe after the amount or even before the amount. So what I will do is that I'll just click on anywhere, I go to the insert and I say insert sheet column, and always it puts it onto the left side. So you can update your existing data that you have with either a row or even a column. In the same way, if you want to also delete a row or a column, you can just simply do that. So assuming I want to delete only pencil from the record, so I'll just click anywhere on the row, I come to the delete here on the home tab and then I choose delete sheet row. So it will just delete the entire row of that data. Or you can also right click on it and then you come there to delete. So you just choose entire row and you click OK. It also deletes it. So that's another way you can also delete existing data that you already have. So let me just undo it. We're going to use it. So that's how basically you can be updating your Excel data. Either you want to add or delete either column, row, or even the entire sheet. Okay, so now let's jump into how you can manipulate data. That is, you want to perform some calculations in Excel. And one thing is that is one of the most powerful thing behind Excel. It can perform most calculations, basically complex and also simple calculation. So there are two ways that you can manipulate data. That is, you want to perform some calculation in Excel. You can either use a formula or a function. So let's see how to use a formula. Now, what do we mean by a formula? A formula is an expression of cells addresses. So if you want to use a formula, it means Excel deals its calculation based on cell addresses. Now, I told you earlier that every cell that you see there has a unique number that is identifying the cell. So as you can see, this is what B6, this is B7. So these are the content of these cells. So if I want to find out the amount, if I'm using my normal calculator, I can just put 20 by 13 and it will give me the amount here. So let's see how to use Excel to perform calculations. So if you are using a formula, every formula starts with the equals to sign. So you have to put the equals to sign. The equals to sign tells or alters the program that you are going to start with a calculation that is using a formula. Now let's do something here. So if you put the equals to sign, I can just simply type 20 times the 13, but because I already have the data there, it will be always good to refer to the cells. So I'll just tap on the cell here. So the moment I tap on it, Excel is so intelligent that it puts in the cell address. It already knows what is in the cell. So you click on the cell that contains the data. Now I'll just put in the multiplication sign. So the asterisk sign that you are seeing here is the multiplication sign for Excel. From your keyboard, you can just strike it from there. So I'm multiplying the cost price by the quantity. So after inputting equals to, I tap here and then I put in the multiplication sign and I tap here. So you can see two communication here. So this is the formula the program is using, equals to B2 times C2. What is the meaning of this? B2 is the cell address of this and C2 is also the cell address of this. So at the end of the day, the program is multiplying what is in B2 to that of C2. So here you can just press enter from your keyboard and your answer gets displayed here. So 20 by 13, that's 260. So that's how you can perform calculation using a formula. Now let's try the second one here. So I'll put in equals to sign, and then I click on the 30, and then I add the multiplication sign, then click on this cell. That is it. So if I press enter, it does the calculation for me. Now if I tap on the answer that we've just got here in the formula bar, you are using, now if I tap on the cell that contains the answers or the amount, it is showing a formula. That is the formula that we use. It means that every calculation that you do based on a formula, you will see the address or the formula that it uses, and it's equals to B2 times C2. So it's not showing the 600 result in there. So that's how it is. Now if you are to go down to what perform all these things, assuming maybe you have a lengthy information that you want to do the same or repeat yourself for all these things, now there is one thing that you can do. You can just copy the formula we use here and then use it throughout the rest. So how do you go about that? So when you just move or hover your mouse to this small tab here, you can see the mouse pointer will change to plus. So what happens is that you can just click and then drag it down here, and now it does magic thing. So Excel will just copy the formula you use here and apply it onto these cells. So check it. If I click on this one, you can see it's multiplying what B5 times the C5. So that's another way you can use formulas to perform calculation. So let's assume I want to know the total amount of this. So let's see how to sum up all these things using functions. So let's see how to work with functions. Okay, so when we talk about functions are built-in formulas. Now get the difference here. When we were dealing with the calculation here, we entered equals to sign, and then we selected the cell that contains those data. That is a formula. But if you want to use a function, functions are built-in formulas. Now when you go to the Excel formula tab, you can see a lot of functions over here. Now I'm going to work with the most basic ones that you normally use every day. So you can access the auto sum here, or you go back to the home. Now you can see the same thing here. So let's find out the sum. We want to find the total of these amounts to know the total. So what we can do is that when we're using the function formula, we put in the equals to sign. But when it comes to functions, we don't put in equals to sign. We just call for the function and it will just come and do the work for you. So here, this is where I want my answer. So let me just label it to a total. Okay, so here is where our total will be displayed. So what I will do is that I will just click that cell and then go to this place. So this is some of the functions. You can even find them from the same formula bar here. So you can see the various functions. So let's look at the first function, sum. Now sum is used to automatically add something up, that is to total. So what I'll do is that I'll just click on sum, and automatically Excel has highlighted the range of cells that appears above it. Now if you want to specify a range, you can just click and then drag it to where you want it to perform the calculation. And since we want to do everything here, we just drag it through. So check what it's using here. It says the equals to sign has already come, and the name of the function is using sum. And then from here you see D2 column D8. That is the range of the cell. It means it's going to add up these data from the D2 down to D8. So from here we'll just press enter from our keyboard and our answer just get displayed here. Now look at the difference here. This is a function. Look at how the function is appearing in the formula bar, and check these ones out. The formula also is showing here. So this is telling you that you can do calculation using a function or using a formula. Now, one thing is that Excel works with all those mathematical operators. You can add up, you can subtract, you can divide, you can do a whole lot with it. Okay, so we have our function. Let's try another function. We have the average function as well. So we want to determine the average amount here. So what you do is that you just, let me label it here so you know it's an average that we're going to find here. Okay, so I'm just come to this side, and then I'll go to the auto sum here. You put down the arrow, then you choose an average. Average means we want the median value. So when you click on the average, it highlights all the entire data. And because I don't want to include the total amount as part of the data range that I'm working, I'll just drag from here to this side, because the range for the amount for the items you are seeing. So I want to find the average from D2 to that of D8. So let me just enter, and then you can see our average amount is 331.29. So that is how you can use basic functions. We have a lot of Excel functions. You can see logical. There are a lot of logical. We have financials. You can see a whole lot of financial functions, which we might cover in our Excel tutorial part 2. That is for the advanced. Okay, now one thing is that you can also edit the content of what you have. Maybe you realize that there is a mistake somewhere in the cost price. You can just edit it and everything gets updated automatically. You don't need to recalculate it again. So let's do something here. Let's assume maybe the ruler, we want to change the price to 45 cedis. Now what you can do is that there are two ways to edit the content of a cell. Either you select the cell and do it in the formula bar, or double click in it and then edit it. Now someone will be just asking, but I didn't see the GHC, the currency sign. It is because we formatted it. You might not see it. Are you getting it? So here, maybe I want to change the cost price to 45 cedis. I can just do it here, and I'll watch something here. I'm going to click outside anywhere, and then the amount section will be recalculated by itself, and it has also affected the total. So that is one powerful thing about what Excel. Whenever there is a mistake and you correct the mistake, everything gets recalculated by itself. So you can also change any of the data here. So let me say the cost price was 14 cedis. I made a mistake, so I can just edit it and look at it. Everything will be recalculated by itself. So that is it for functions and formulas. So these are basic functions and basic formulas that you can use. Now one thing is that you can add up, you can subtract based on whatever that you want. Now let's assume maybe we made some expenses out of the total amount, so we want to subtract it. So let me just put expenses here. Okay, so let's assume maybe there was an expenses of 250. Okay, so we want to subtract the expenses value from the total. So we want to put the expenses. So we want to subtract the expenses value from the total here. So what I'll do is that I'll just select the cell that I want the answer to display. So here I need to use a formula because there is no function that will take this value out of that. So I'll put a equals to sign. Okay, so we want to subtract the expenses value from this total. So what I'll do is that I'll just put the cursor here. I'll select the cell, put the equals to sign. I'm using a formula. So I'm going to subtract this thing from this. So I have to select this value first. That is the D9 cell. So I'll put the minus sign and then I'll click on this value. So I'm subtracting 250 from this. So when you enter, it's going to give you the balance. So this is telling you that you can even use subtraction, you can add up. Okay, so let me show you how you can also insert data onto a chart. So here we're going to just highlight all these items and the prices on a chart. So when you highlight the data, if you want to insert a chart, you go to the insert menu here, and then you see the various charts. So we have different charts. We have the pie chart, we have the by column, so any which one that you want to use. So let me just pick this one, and when you come here, we have different columns here. So I want to use this kind of chart. You can use the 3D. It looks very nice and attractive. Normally charts are used to project a data for it to be very easy to analyze. So you can see my chart. These are the various items that we have, and then the various prices. You can label it with any text that you want. You can also drag it from its original position to anywhere that you want. You can also stretch it out also on the sheet. So that is also another way to use chart. Now you can change the style of the chart. If you look at the chart styles here, any of the styles that you want, you can just quickly apply it onto it. So that's how you can just put your data onto a chart. Okay, so let's see how you can print your data. Maybe you have done something, you want to print it out on a paper. So how do you do that? Now if you want to print, you can just quickly go to the file tab here. So when you click on the file menu, then you can see print. Now when you come to the print, you will see your Excel data that we have. Now you realize that all the data that we have, it doesn't appear in a tabular form as you saw from the main sheet. Now one thing is that if you are printing and you want borders around it, what you have to do is that you need to select all the data that you have here. Now from here you see borders. So when you come down, you see the all borders. All borders will show all the various borders around. And now you can also see there is a line here. This line is separating this content to be on a second page. So if I want everything to be on just a single page, I need to resize my chart to fit into this dimension so that anything that I will print will appear there. If you scroll down, you can see where it also ends over here. So that's how when you preview your work, you see how your data will appear on the paper. So let's go back to the file, and then we'll go to the print. And now from here, you are seeing all your data being represented here. So this is our table that we work, and this is our chart. So here, if you have a printer installed, you can just select the printer and choose the number of copies that you want, and then you click on the print, and perfectly it will print it very nicely. If you want to save this data, what you have to do is that you can use the save icon from the quick access bar, or go to the file, then you can come to save. So here we want to save it on our computer, so I'll just browse it, and then I'll choose a location. So I'm going to save it in document. So I'm just going to say my item list. So I'm going to save it item list. So that's it. And then the type of the file is going to be Excel workbook, so that I can later edit it. If one way you want to make it as a PDF, then you have to change it from this to PDF. Yes, so if you see PDF, you can just save your file as PDF, but it is advisable to save your original copy as Excel, so that anytime you can just edit it. So let me just click on save, and then save my Excel. So that's how you can use Excel. These are just basic tips for Excel. Thank you for watching this video, and please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. See you. Bye bye.